Welcome to The Walking Dead, the officially unofficial podcast for The Walking Dead on AMC. I'm Jim.
I'm Aaron.
And today we're talking about Season 6, Episode 15, entitled East. What do you think of this episode?
You know, I was kind of conflicted last night when we were doing the live watch, but after I've watched it this morning, I feel like The Walking Dead has really fallen into some of its badder, worse instincts and habits.
Okay.
Like the entire conceit of this episode is horseshit.
From what angle?
Like if you ask me, do I believe that Daryl would go after Carol and not listen to anyone and be that selfish? Yeah, even this far in his development, I think that he would still do something like that and abandon the larger group. Okay. Everyone else going after him, like you're essentially sending 6 people out for one person in a time of war, and they all know it. It's like, do I believe that Rick would want to do that? But I just felt like there was, you need someone like Abraham, like, to grab him and like, look, soldier, this is a fucking war. This isn't, Rick and Carol's playtime anymore. Get your shit together. Right. Like if Morgan wants to go out as a load, I guess that's what I thought.
Well, one small correction: Daryl is not going after Carol. Daryl is going after the killer of Denise.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So
I'm sorry.
Really, they're going out for 2 separate people, and I feel like it all falls on Rick. Rick should know better, right? Like
But I think if Rick had just been like, had not wanted to, you had to have the tension of him wanting to go get his people and be concerned with them, but you also needed to have maybe Abraham or Maggie, who seems to be the de facto leader now, say you can't do that. You've got something larger here to protect, and there's not that really. Glenn says something. We need our numbers, but he's also the one leading the charge. I mean, you think of who's left to defend Alexandria. Maggie,
Abraham,
who's pregnant, Abraham and Sasha,
Carl, who's a kid.
Carl
is a badass, but a kid.
You've got way more of your fighters on the outside than you got on the inside.
Right.
It's just, it's dumb.
I'm with you. It's a big mistake. And I feel like as the leader, Rick should recognize that it's a mistake, and he shouldn't go out at the very least.
Yeah,
he should stay back.
I think he should want to, but someone should call him, and maybe Abraham has to cold cock him, knock him out to keep him in there.
He should cold cock himself. Like, he should be smart enough to understand this, right?
Yeah.
I'm with you. That part really bugged me on the second watch. I get Daryl. Like, Daryl goes out. He wants to, I get the impression that he wants to handle this before Tara gets back, so that he'll have some piece of the puzzle to put together for Tara.
Yeah.
I got the bastard who did this. But
yes. It's for very selfish reasons, but I do believe that Daryl still has enough of the untamed Daryl left in him that he couldn't see past that.
And you're not going to stop him.
No.
Right?
So you got to let him go, but like the fact that everybody is out there just seemed like, we need some hostages and we need to make this, these saviors a big splash, so we'll just have all this stuff happen simultaneously,
right,
to maximize the potential. But I don't know, man. I thought it was,
and a little stuff that's spoilery that I'm not going to talk about. Maybe they're trying to mix it up a little bit.
Could be
for things that we know are coming up as an audience.
Should be a pretty lively spoiler section.
Yeah,
but then so like here again, it's going to be another nitpicker's delight, because once I started thinking like, oh, this is kind of horseshit, I started noticing, characters having very loud arguments while they're walking through what they now know. I mean, they're not under any illusion. Like, Glenn is especially making the point that these people know way more than us. We thought that we had the upper hand. We don't. But he's still like, they're not they're not trying to sneak through the forest. They're asking to be ambushed. And again, it'd be one thing if they didn't know the saviors are out there, but we're halfway through this like war that Rick has declared, and I feel like that's really dumb. But they need it to happen, and also like, you get absurd stuff like people getting to drop on Daryl when he is sneaking through the woods. Like, can you? Does that mean that these guys are like better than Daryl? In which case, I think our group is fucked, man. Right,
because Daryl's one of the best at that stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. It's tough because I do want to also just say, just sort of gloss over that stuff and say, you know what, The Walking Dead is what The Walking Dead is, and I have to either accept it or give up. And I don't know. I hate to nitpick over the same things over and over, but they keep making the same mistakes. So.
And it goes back to, like, you know, we always, when The Walking Dead is really good, it's like, is this a mistake? Did they just kind of happen upon these variables that put them on an arc that's interesting and compelling without being artificial? Because it's an episode like this that makes me think, man, just when I thought that they had kind of really, you know, had a firm hand on the wheel and they had the ship plotted in the right direction, and there's no excuse for it. There's none of the plots that were coming up to this point. Like, I was, you know, you listen to last week's episode. I wasn't like, oh, this is crazy what Carol's doing. Like, I'm okay. Maybe it sets up an interesting thing, but I don't know. I feel like this was just self-inflicted gunshot wounds to the show itself. But having said that, I still maintain it's hard for me to believe that this show is going to be anything but compelling next week.
Yeah, I would hope that's the case.
I mean, you know, if nothing else, you've got essentially every one of the characters that we care about, save Rick and Carl and Judith, who are kind of up for grabs.
Mm-hmm. They're all kind of in danger at the moment.
In enemy hands. So that alone should be pretty compelling to resolve. Yeah.
We'll see. I don't know. I don't have strong feelings about this episode. Yeah, I think they're making some of the same mistakes, but it wasn't by far the worst I've seen of The Walking Dead, but it wasn't nearly the best either.
No, it's just disappointing because I thought maybe that we just wouldn't see an episode like this again.
Yeah. Oh well, are we ready for the feedback or for the
recap? So we start the cold open with what would you call this? Like a Mad Max cartage of this.
Yeah, I don't know.
This Sonic the Carol the Hedgehog mobile going down the road, and there's like very faded out voiceovers of Carol ordering someone to come out, and there's yelling, and there's gunshots, and there's transmission fluid and blood leaking all over the fucking place. Then we go through the credits, we come back, and we see Carol sewing a sleeve on what I presume is one of Tobin's very large Carhartt outerwear jackets.
Yeah, she's got, I think, what we've seen Tobin wearing before.
And she's commandeering this to sew what I think is an Uzi into the sleeve. I don't know how that actually works. But
I don't think it can actually work. But
that's the gun that's laying out, and that's the type of gun it seems like she's shooting when she reveals her trick. But you know,
and then they conspicuously never actually show it dropping out of her sleeve or anything, or her.
No, she fires
like
it from
having it
inside the sleeve.
Right. Every sleeve gun I have ever seen is like this tiny little one-shot thing.
Well, it has to be.
Right. By necessity, because big guns don't fit in sleeves.
Like if you had an Uzi or a Tech 9 or something, and you cut that's what I'm saying. If you cut if you cut the grip and didn't have a clip in it, that might work.
Maybe. Yeah.
But she shoots like 30 rounds. I mean, I don't know.
Unless it's one of those automatic handguns, but then the clip for that is
that's what I'm saying.
Extremely long too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Whatever.
We're not there yet, but
whatever.
Yeah.
She's also packing a go bag. You always hear those doomsday preppers talking about. It's got beet cookies.
Yep.
And some
protein
rations and stuff like that. I don't know. It looks like maybe some fire starting crap.
Mm-hmm.
When Tobin comes in, starts talking a mess about Denise, and Carol does what the rest of the audience does and completely tunes him out. She just goes into her happy place, and apparently she makes love to him because she wakes up in the middle of the night and gets out of bed and sneaks out.
Is there an implication of lovemaking?
Well,
I mean, I guess waking up in the middle of the night with someone,
when the characters go to embrace, and then the camera just pans down and to the right onto the bed, and the next scene you see her waking up at night, and there's a blank spot by Tobin. She's either just been standing in the corner, low these many hours, or she slept with the man.
Okay.
And look, I threw up in my mouth. I threw up in my mouth when the realization hit me, but I don't think there's any way to escape the realization.
Yeah, I was looking for a way out.
But she sneaks out to the tune of Johnny Cash's "It's All Over," which essentially is him just singing "It's All Over," which I'm fine with, you know.
Yeah, good song.
we see that the politics of the town are such that they've decided that Sasha and Rosita should do guard duty together. That seems like a bad idea.
Well, it makes me wonder how much these people are talking about the interpersonal relationships.
But
I'm not sure that anybody other than those three know about it.
They don't know that in a community this small, they don't know that Abraham has moved out.
I don't know.
And that he's staying now in Sasha's house.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, here's my point. You know who does know? You know who does know? Sasha.
Sure.
And you know who rearranged her guard shift because she didn't want to fuck around with Abraham while he's still with Rosita? Sasha. You know who doesn't fuck around with her guard duty to get away from, offending the woman who she screwed over? Sasha. It makes me not like Sasha. Especially when her and Abraham are being cute right in front of Rosita while she's, like, shooting eye daggers at both of them.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really read too much into what's happening in this scene, but they're just switching up. It's not like Sasha said, "Hey, Abraham, I can't deal with this Rosita stare. Come help me out."
No,
I
I'm
felt
not
like
saying
it was
that.
just
I'm
swapping
saying
of the guard.
I know, but what I'm saying is Sasha has switched her guard duty around out of her own sensitivity before.
Uh-huh.
So she could do it again. She chooses not to.
Okay.
That's like, I just feel like that's a dick move. Like, if I stole your girlfriend,
right? But it's
I would try to, like, just out of deference, I'd try to rearrange our podcasting schedules so you don't have to see me in the studio.
Sure. Right. But at some point, I don't know.
At some point, you're right. They all have to get along, but this is like literally days afterwards. And Rosita, you can tell she's like Superman style laser beams out of her eyes.
How much? I just question how much she knows about Rosita's schedule. Like, does she know this is going to be a problem until it is? Like,
she's an idiot if she doesn't.
Why? Because
she knows they were lovers in their increment.
What? Yeah, but no. It's not. You're arguing points I'm not making.
Okay, what is the point that you're making?
The point I'm making is, does she know that Sasha? That Rosita is actually going to be there on guard at the same time she is.
Do they not know?
I don't know how much they know of other people's schedules. Like, that's the thing.
It's a community of 50 people.
Right.
And there's not that many standing guard. I find it hard to believe that they don't know each other's schedules. They have to have it posted somewhere.
But she just changed her schedule. Like, I don't know. I don't know is the question. You're, like, wanting to get all up in arms about this, and I'm saying we just don't know. The situation.
I know enough to know that this is bullshit. If you don't, then that's fine. But
I don't think you do either. But you'll call bullshit on it anyway. Whatever.
I've already done. Moving on. Where was I?
We skipped over the.
No, I haven't
didn't we skip the Carl thing?
Nope, I haven't skipped over anything.
Okay.
Carl inspects a pistol.
Yeah.
That has a very crudely drawn turkey leg with a Spider-Man web going down its side.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Or maybe it's a fish with like fishing line wrapped around it.
Okay. Yeah.
Or maybe a
upside down bottle with
some kind of wire in it. I really, it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Could be a dick pic. I mean,
you get the impression that this is a gun they got from the Saviors, though.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. Glenn and Maggie are getting all washed up. In our oohing and ahhing last night of Maggie's ass crack being spackled, because it's like they just kept on panning down, and her lower back just wouldn't end. And we made the joke, if you weren't on the live show, that Greg Nicotero had whipped up a crack prosthetic, so we didn't have to see her ass crack. Her body is like covered in bruises.
Yeah.
I didn't pick that up last night. I don't know why.
It's a harsh world out there.
Yeah. Do you think that has something to do with her neonatal, prenatal difficulties later in the episode?
It can't help. That's for sure.
And she sustained all that stuff in the adventure she had with the Alicia Witt, Paula, I guess. From the 2 episodes ago.
We never really saw much damage occurring to her, but
yeah, I mean,
somewhere along
Carol
the line.
said that they didn't do anything to him, but that's a lot of bruising and whatnot.
Yeah,
I don't know. Let's see what else. Daryl is deciding to swing a leg over his newly liberated bike. Abraham relieves Rosita, and they play around with a cigar. And again, Rosita's throwing up in her hat in a corner, but that's not a problem because guard schedules and whatnot. Rick and Michonne sleep in. Michonne wakes up, immediately tucks into an apple she keeps by the bedside.
Yeah.
Really keeping this apple a day keeps the doctor away business serious now that Denise is dead.
Maybe they're out of toothpaste. They're trying to get rid of morning breath. I don't know, man, but
Maybe that's instead of smashing a Red Bull, you just as soon as you open your eyes, you start eating an apple because it's a little known fact. It's impossible to fall asleep while you're eating an apple.
Is that true?
As long as you keep eating, you won't oversleep. I don't know. It's a bizarre scene.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's only bizarre if you really want to go after it, right? Like, why not eat an apple when you wake up? But it is weird.
What is with you saying it's only bizarre if you want to get into it? Who have you ever known anyone to keep food by the bedside to immediately consume when they wake up?
No, but I have a glass of water by the bedside.
That is not freaky behavior.
I'm just saying.
Like having an alarm
possible.
clock is not weird. Having a stuffed armadillo would be weird. Like there's lots of things that are normal and things that are weird. What the hell is going on in this podcast?
It's strange, but I don't understand the significance of it.
Oh, I don't either.
There's something we have an email about it.
So there is storytelling significance in that it gave them an excuse to talk about how this is evidence that the hilltop is maintaining their agreement to keep him fed.
Right. So it's conveniently shoved in there so they can have a conversation. But
Very conveniently.
There might also be some symbolism here that we have an emailer who wrote in.
Oh, okay.
Later on.
Some symbolic shoving in.
Yeah.
in lieu of the real shoving in that Rick wants to do.
But, I mean, the conversation is about, how they're determined to keep what they have. And it seems like both of them are on board with this, which, makes the issues bigger when Rick decides, I'm going to abandon this community that we have.
I know.
Michonne decides, I'm going to abandon this community that we have.
When they up front talk about, we're all fearing about an imminent attack.
Yeah.
It's weird, but at least they're eating apples. Maggie's explaining, this is something I like. They're spread out and hide to armory strategy. She's got the guns, and they're distributing to all the guard posts instead of keeping them in the central armory, which they niftily exploited with the saviors. They're also talking about hiding guns so that, like, even if they're overwhelmed, that our people know to get them and the other people won't. That's all smart stuff. Mm-hmm. Daryl comes and charges the gate and lets himself out, and everyone decides they need to stop him. Who is it? Is it Glenn and Michonne get up in a van and try to go after him, and Abraham wants him to make room for his freckled ass, but Rosita says, fuck that. Hopefully I can go out there and die. And also, I know where Daryl is. I'm the only one that would.
Yeah.
And I like that Glenn at least says, hey, man, we need to keep numbers here. But whatever, he still takes off of three of their best fighters.
Yep.
Rick then gets hit with the bad news that Carol's gone. She apparently snuck outside the wall under cover of darkness and then stole a car from the outer defense cars that they have all set up porcupine style.
Yeah, Daryl's timing on this is real bad because they haven't quite found the note from Carol yet. Or, well, Tobin has, but he hasn't quite brought it to the community yet. So going out to find Daryl is kind of excusable, right? You take a couple people, you go find Daryl. That's all well and good. Then you take a few more people to go find Carol. That's where you start to run into problems for me.
Yeah, I just don't know that you take a few people to find Daryl because, number one, if Daryl doesn't want to be found, he won't be found. Like we were talking
Maybe you
about
send Rosita after him.
The futility of trying to find Daryl Dixon in the woods when he's got a motorcycle that's got off-road tires and you've got a fucking A-team van.
I think what should have happened here is Michonne should have noped out when Rosita said, I know where he is. She should have been like, okay, you two go find him. I'm going to stay here.
Yeah. Or, in times of war, I just feel like, okay, this guy went AWOL. We can't afford anybody else going after him.
Right.
Like, that would have been a valid decision to make. And
Yeah,
maybe if somebody puts up a little bit more of a fight, but... And I get it that everybody wants to go get Daryl, but you got to do the adult thing every once in a while.
Yeah.
So Rick gets hit with the bad news. Rick and Morgan decide to go out and look for her, even though she says not to. Mm-hmm. And at this point, do they know that, Rick knows that Daryl's already gone off. So he makes this decision with the full knowledge that now 6 of the town's best fighters are going to be leaving.
Yeah.
I mean...
It's a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
send
Carl
Morgan.
And Judith
If
are
Morgan's
here.
unwilling to kill, let Morgan go, but...
Yes, I would accept Morgan taking a one-man mission to go get Carol because he's going to be useless in an all-out war fight anyway.
Yeah, and what are you really going to do to stop him, right? If he gets a wild hair and just says, I'm going, are you going to put him in his own cell?
Yeah, well, that'd be
could.
ironic.
But ultimately, he's not going to be that much help. So,
do you want to talk about the Fear the Flight mini-movie? and the Asian woman's obsession with slamming the window shut on this poor teenage boy.
Sure. It's something we complained about from the jump, right? Like, I think it was first or second little episode.
Yeah. Like, what is her deal? And 15 episodes later, after she sympathizes with the kid and say, it's my fault that your, I guess, mom wasn't on the plane, she immediately slams his window shut again.
Slaps his in-flight drink out of his hand, closes his tray. Don't take advantage of any of the perks of being on an airplane.
You keep that seat in an upright lock position, young man.
Yeah, what the fuck?
It's such a weird quirk.
It feels like they're going for something thematic, like don't think about the outside world here, but why?
Yeah, don't look at the clouds. That's, she's going to shoot him in the head. That's like, you want him to look at the clouds then. You want him to be distracted.
We got an email from Matt questioning a couple of things. At what point does the plane from The Walking Dead Flight 462A crash into the ship in Fear the Walking Dead?
Pilot episode, or premiere episode.
Yep.
They're on a collision
course. Push
course.
them off the boat. Or B, show up as wreckage in a Virginia forest in Walking Dead despite the obvious continuity problems. I wouldn't have a huge problem with that.
If they don't tie in at all, ever.
If it's just
this is not compelling enough to... I mean, I honestly don't... The Walking Dead does not need the lead on from Fear the Walking Dead.
Maybe they're going to spin off another series in the 9 days that they skipped.
The Walking Dead?
In the 9 days they skipped in Fear the Walking Dead.
Uh-huh.
Where they actually show us the stuff we wanted to see in Fear the Walking Dead.
Maybe. Maybe that's why we didn't see that stuff. This plane, that there's a whole division of Marines about to liberate the city, and this plane just lands right on top of them, taking them all out. Anyway, Carol is driving her Mad Max Porcupine car. She gets waylaid by some savior goons. The way they filmed the lead up to this was a bit Monty Python, where Sir Lancelot, is it Sir Lancelot? That's storming the wedding. And you see these guards with like dumb looks on their face, and it keeps on getting closer and closer, and then you see him charging far away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like unintentionally funny to me. And especially the way they filmed her. Carol's head looks like one of those thumb things that they do with like Thumb Wars, where they put the eyes and nose and mouth on a thumb. Like it looks like she's got this enormous head with these itty bitty facial features in the middle of it. I don't know whether it's a walleye lens they shot it with, but I was about to laugh out loud when I was watching it.
Yeah, I have not liked some of the editing choices over the last couple episodes. Like,
there's another one that's about to get weird.
I really hate that we'll get to, but it has to do with this Carol thing.
Yeah, so they drive by and disable her car with a rifle. They take out her tire. Looks like they did some pretty good damage to the coolant system or the engine.
Yep.
They order her out very creepily. They sound like they know exactly where Alexandria is, and they know about its defenses, and they know how far up the road it is. They know a lot more about Alexandria than we were led to believe.
Right, which I think is smart on the part of the writers to let us know that they have people watching, right?
Yes.
Not and maybe not just now that the attack has happened, but maybe potentially before the attack happened. Like, who knows how long they've known and what they've known.
And they're just biding their time. That's scary.
Right.
So they said they're on their way to Alexandria. What the fuck do you think they're going to do?
Knock on the door?
5 of them.
Knock on the door. I mean, that's all they can do, really.
Like, hey, assholes, we know you're killing our guys. Stop it.
Maybe it's a threat. Yeah,
because
maybe
they got
it's
1 or 2 guys with guns. The rest of them have spears, which kind of gives you a hint about maybe Rick's raid, if it didn't annihilate their threat, it at least took out the majority of their armory. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
And we do know that they have at least some ammunition now. They have a handgun's worth of bullets, at the very least.
And whatever the guy shot from his rifle.
Which I'm not... Did he even get a shot off? Or
not
was it all Carol?
But he did spray down her car pretty good, yeah.
Yes. So at least a couple clips.
Carol tries her hyperventilating trick, but I'm wondering, is it actually a trick, or is she having a stress response that she's fighting through to kill these guys?
Right. That's a fair question. I don't know that I like this version of Carol, because I don't know why she would pretend here. I guess it worked for her last time.
Yeah, I mean,
it worked for her.
I think I don't mind the pretend thing, because it's, you got a bunch of asshole dudes. You want them to underestimate you so you can get in close and get the kill shot.
If she's not pretending, I have a big problem with Carol as a character.
Because it's weird the way she's playing it. I'm not quite sure if she is pretending, or if this is or maybe she's using her stress reaction to sell the ruse. I don't know. There's something going on here.
I don't know. It's something about, like I've talked about in previous episodes, where Carol's gone too far in the other direction.
Yeah.
If she literally can't handle the stress of being in a dangerous situation now, that's not Carol.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of her position, her stance on killing, that doesn't feel like Carol. They've gone too far in the other direction. So I have to hope that this is a ruse, like it was last time.
She needs Morgan to teach her the Aikido stuff so she can get her shit together.
I guess, yeah.
Get all her shit together and put it in a box.
Yeah.
So she completely ventilates them, except for, I think there's 5 guys. She kills 3. There's 1 that's left alive, and she's out of bullets. And he's going to creep up to her car. He still, after he watched her deftly take down these guys, approaches far too cockily. And she is able to stand up and take one of these sharpened broomstick and just skewer him like a wild boar through the car.
Yeah.
Which was pretty badass. And then it leaves just a loudmouth asshole left as she goes and just kills with a pistol. Maggie, back at Alexandria, is telling...
That guy's going to come back as a walker.
He is.
Yeah, it's a real shame for him.
Maggie's going to tell Enid that things just got better. Why did I put this on my notes? I don't understand my own notes.
What do you mean?
I don't know. I just wrote that Maggie's telling Enid that things just got better, and I don't know what that means because
they have this pickle conversation. Is this?
This is the pickle conversation. Oh, no, things just got busy. This is a typo because there are now 5 badasses down, and she's gonna have to take a guard shift. And Enid says, "You know what? Take this jar of pickles, prop up your feet, stepmom." Which I think is their relationship now. I'm gonna go take your guard shift. That's cool. Enid seems like she could take care of herself. She can at least provide eyes.
Sure.
And tell people when things are coming.
And she, comments on what we've been commenting about Maggie for the last few episodes. She looks tired as fuck.
Yeah.
She's looking ragged. Yeah. So give her a couple hours off.
Yeah, no kidding. She's eating, sleeping, and zombie fighting for 2 now.
Yep.
Morgan uses the advantage of Rick being trapped in the car with him to all-out morgalize. They have this West versus East conversation that felt like Morgan was picking a fight with him for nothing.
I think it's supposed to tell us that these might not be the same people from the compound, right? Like, Morgan specifically points out, look, you guys went east, is that right?
West is where the compound
You guys went west to kill the Saviors. These guys came from the east, or that's at least
but they haven't even got to this point yet. This is them going after... Rick says the tracks went east, right. And Morgan says... So he's like saying
I think he's talking about the Daryl thing, right? Like, Daryl's stuff...
Oh.
The Denise stuff happened to the east. Because I think they've had a conversation about that.
But they're going after Carol. I thought they said the tracks. I thought those Carol's tracks went east.
Oh, but they haven't found them yet.
Right, so. And then so Morgan says, plus the other guys were west, which I thought he's trying to say, Rick, she's running from trying to kill people. She's going in the opposite direction to Savior.
Okay.
But
he could also be saying that, yeah.
But I didn't get it because Rick is not saying, like, we should go west and... again, it just seemed like Morgan's picking a fight where there is none to pick. And he asserts that what I believe isn't right because there is no right. There's just the wrong that doesn't pull you down, which I guess that's fine.
He's building up to the circular conversation here.
Yeah. But at least he's not quite as self-righteous as he was a few episodes ago because this all life is precious seemed like a doctrine of primacy to him. And now he's like, it's just, it's just another way you can live.
Right.
Back at the failed ambush point with Carol, some jackass clutches his chest and tells the guy dying outside to let it go. And then he goes and limps off into the bushes. I don't know why we even had to see this scene, honestly.
I don't know.
This guy came out of the bushes clutching his bloody chest after the Rick and Morgan scene. I would have known that, okay, this is what's happening.
There's no chance that he found some body armor along the way and is actually the guy at the barn?
I don't think so, because the other thing is this guy just disappears.
Yeah.
So
maybe they're setting something up for next episode where he goes back and tells them something. I don't know.
I don't know either. But
yeah, it was a little strange.
Yeah. But he goes and limps off in the bushes, as I mentioned, and Rick and Morgan arrive shortly after. And Rick attempts to brief his interrogation and show history on the guy dying on the ground. He's like, "Where did she go?" And the guy's like, it's kind of like sputters blood, and Rick just like, "Gurk." Dink right in the head.
Yep.
Throughout this episode, Morgan's killing zombies with simple blunt force trauma to the head.
Yeah, I don't know that I buy it.
I don't either, because I've remarked in this particular season that doesn't seem to work as well anymore. The zombies are surprisingly resilient with the whole just beating them in the head with stuff. Molten lead won't kill them.
Yeah, like I wonder. I don't know. I mean, a staff to the head's probably pretty effective in killing a human being, right?
I think you can kill a person,
yeah.
But the zombies, it seems like that they've decided, you know what, is the fucking brainstem. You got to get some kind of penetration into any part of the head.
As long as you can sever the spinal cord.
You think that's what he's doing? He's like snapping their neck.
But that shouldn't kill him. I mean, it could certainly disable them completely.
Which I don't think Morgan's the type that has to kill every walker. He just wants it to be not a threat anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit of a stretch, but whatever.
Morgan finds a blood trail and goes off into the field. And Rick observes that perhaps they didn't end anything with the saviors. And Morgan says, "Nah, you started something," which are both right on observations.
Yeah.
Chest-clutching man comes out of the bushes, grabs Carol's rosary, and then goes after Rick and Morgan. If this leads to a plot where Morgan and Carol team up to morgalize this guy and convert him to the way of the light, I'm going to die. I'm going to jam a sharpened rosary through my eye.
I don't know how that would happen.
Well, again,
yeah, it's weird to have him just wander off.
And clearly tracking Rick and Morgan. I want desperately to know what's going on here, but we don't unless you, as you say, the guy rustling horses in full body armor is the same guy, which I don't buy.
It didn't really seem
like
him.
He seems younger, thinner, and not a shot in the chest as this guy.
Yeah, a little more spry than an old man shot in his shoulders.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's weird. So where am I at here? Oh yes, we're now at the train tracks where Denise died last episode, and Glenn, Rosita, and Michonne arrive. They find Darragh has left his bike and kind of cloaked it with some branches and shit.
I mean, before we go too far from this, did we talk about the spear that he finds and like some of the hypothesizing you can do about that? Like,
I was going to save that to the end because it kind of it's the reason that he justified himself shooting the dude that had the spear in the end. But yeah, Rick observes in this scene that they're using a spear that he can tell is crafted by the blacksmith at the hilltop.
Right, but we've also got the indicator
Rick Grimes,
that these
expert in metallurgy.
We've also got the indicator that these may not be the people from the hilltop or the saviors because they're like based in an opposite direction, I guess. Like that's what Morgan's talking about. I think.
I just assumed that since we know the hilltop has a deal with the saviors, that the hilltop was supplying the saviors with these spears.
Right, but when you combine that with the idea that they're west and they went east.
Okay, so you think they're intending to put some confusion into the viewer to see that there might be more factions besides the hilltop and the saviors?
It seems like it to me.
I definitely think they are suggesting that as well, but I don't really want to say much until we get to the spoilers because I know a little bit too much. Anyway, so we're at the train track junction where Denise died, and Glenn argues that this is insane what they're doing, and he's absolutely right. And he says, because Rosita says maybe we shouldn't stop him. He's like, well, maybe he doesn't know what he's doing, and maybe he does, and maybe we don't either. Maybe they keep learning more about us, and we keep getting jacked up, and maybe he ends up getting himself killed. And I thought that was actually great, but he doesn't follow through the logical course, which is, you know what? Fuck it, let's go back.
Right, and maybe you couldn't stop him even if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do? Butt him in the head with your gun? And
now, after I've clearly laid out the case of this being stupid, Rosita, where do you think you went?
Right.
I'm like, okay.
I do like how stubborn Darragh is here, because it shows a lot about his character that we already know, but it's just it stays faithful to that. Like, he is a stubborn person, right? He gets something in his head.
Yeah.
You're not going to say anything to change his mind. And he feels super guilty about getting Denise in this scenario in the first place. He feels like he got her killed. And then I feel like he wants, like I said at the beginning, to have something to tell Tara when she gets back.
Yes.
And that's why he's on this mission.
Yes, he does. So the next shot where Darragh shoots a warning shot at the group, and Rosita's like, "Watch where you're shooting, asshole." He's like, "I did." I'd have killed you if I meant to shoot, the words of that effect.
Yeah.
And they try to talk him back, and he says, you guys shouldn't have come. Glenn says you shouldn't have left, and Glenn says you think it's your fault, and he goes, I know it is, which are fair points. If he had killed Dwight, we wouldn't be in this situation, or at least this exact situation.
Sure. Or if he hadn't let Denise go on the fucking raid with him, like there's a lot of reasons why this might be Daryl's fault.
Well, this like that one spaghetti scene with Aaron and his boyfriend turned him into a believer of finding people and helping them, and not just my group and nobody. And now I feel like he's really, really wishing that he didn't do all that because he feels like an asshole. He stuck his neck out, and look what happened.
Yep.
So again, I completely buy Daryl's motivations. It's everybody else that I have a bit of a problem with.
Yeah.
So Daryl won't come home. So Glenn's like, I think Glenn's about to pack it in. And in fact, he does. And Rosita says, you know what? I'm going with him. Why do you think Rosita goes after?
I think she feels guilty too.
Does she feel guilty, or is she just having a problem dealing with being abandoned by Abraham? Because there's a little bit of fatalism to her, I think.
There might be a fair bit of that as well.
Okay. All right. Because I was like, man, am I crazy? I don't know. Glenn and Michonne start to walk back, and they are having a very loud conversation about how they kind of just luckily fell together into a group of like-minded people. I feel like it's a little bit of a rose-tinted glasses approach, because they did have to kill a fair amount of people in their group. Like Shane, all the prisoners they fell in with. Like, a lot of people have died to get to this purity of vision,
Sure.
And he says that the world's not what we thought with the hilltop saviors. It's bigger. There's like, at this point, it's interesting to note that like groups like the Saviors, which I guess in Walking Dead up until now, we'd think that a group like Woodbury or a group like Terminus, eventually those groups would just fall apart. Like, you cannot sustain a group based on selfishness and survivalism only. You have to have a balance. Whereas the Saviors maybe be a case where you can weld together a group based on those principles.
Yeah, they don't seem like really good people, honestly. Seems like they're... I don't know. It's
but the
tough
Paula
to
group
say.
didn't seem like they were terrible people either.
Right. Like, how did the first encounter with the Saviors was pretty shitty.
Yep.
It was on the road with Daryl and Abraham.
And they're threatening to kill him the whole fucking time.
Rosita was out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, Sasha.
Sasha was out there. And they RPG'd him.
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't view these people as good people, but, you turn it around, what would an encounter from the other side look like?
Sure.
If they were just rolling down the road on their motorcycles and Daryl and Abraham pulled up with an RPG and said, drop your weapons to neutralize a threat.
Or we're going to take all your weapons.
Yeah. Like, you can kind of see it both ways, right?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily black and white. And I think they've done a pretty good job at showing that this season.
I agree.
I mean, for all the moralizing that's happened,
sure,
there is a point in there. And it's a fairly interesting, nuanced one.
Yep. Suddenly they get flanked by like 5 dudes, and then equally suddenly Dwight shows up holding his gun tree frog style. I mean, it's like he's trying to mind meld with the gun, Horta and Spock style. Now, I actually looked up, and there is a thing called point style.
Point style.
Where you you lay your finger along the barrel of the gun, and you work the trigger with your middle finger, because it's a natural form. Like, everyone's good at pointing at stuff. Like, if you point at something with your finger, usually you're aiming right at it. And I guess this is a style. It's kind of an archaic style, but this is a style that's... But the thing is his grip's still all wrong, because his finger's not going along the barrel. It's the axis. It's actually pointed at like a 45 degree. It's just, I don't know, man. Like, maybe there is a finger pointing gun style, or maybe this guy is just holding the gun like a complete jackass.
The world's been turned upside down. You experiment. You find out, like, maybe the old world didn't have the grips right.
Sure.
Maybe there's a better way.
Somebody at one point decided, you know what? I'm going to start holding my gun, turn 90 degrees, gangster style.
Exactly.
Boom.
Maybe go all the way upside down. I don't know.
Rick's got the famous hand up, point down style.
Shoot from the head.
Yeah, like shoot from the... So maybe the zombie apocalypse
shoot from the crown.
It's just a chance to freestyle with your firearms.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
But I thought it was the most fucking ridiculous thing I've seen, and a hero shot to boot. Like,
there's no right way to hold a gun, just the wrong way that doesn't pull you down.
oh, Jesus. Anyway, next scene, Rick and Morgan are keeping on tracking Carol. They talk about Rick's new thinking about the prison. So this was actually somewhat shocking. Rick, at this point in his development, would have thanked Carol for doing the necessary thing and killing these people.
Yeah, he's really come around.
That's Captain Hindsight, 100%.
Yeah, ex-gun farmer Rick,
Yes.
like, left that in his past.
Now that I know the entire prison essentially died because of the whatever shitstorm flu they got, but still, I thought it was kind of interesting that he's completely come around and he would have not only not banished her, but given her a promotion.
Right.
Or an attaboy, an attagirl. They wander to a farm and they find what appears to be a man in a full body riot gear, similar to what they had at the prison, wielding a spear. Rick tries to shoot the guy when he won't put his spear down, and Morgan knocks his aim off as the man takes advantage of a sudden zombie group to flee. Rick asserts that this guy has yet another spear from Hilltop, just like the Savior's, and therefore it's good enough for being a savior to him. Anything you want to add to this scene?
I mean, this is where a lot of Morgan's explaining of himself comes in, yeah? Or is it later on?
I think it's actually this scene.
There's some of it here and some
I actually
later
broke
on.
that into a separate part of my notes. That
Okay.
So at this point, Morgan reveals all the bullshit that went on with the captive wolf, and I love how Rick plays this. How Andy Lincoln plays this, like just kind of like disbelief.
Yeah,
Like slack-jawed amazement.
he's like trying to make up his mind on this.
I don't think he was giving his point of view much thought at all.
Really?
I took it as just like, man, you're my friend, and that's the only reason I'm not pistol whipping every tooth out of your mouth right now.
Yeah, it sucks because Carol is, even when she tries to leave the group and go out on her own, she's still a liability to the group, right? Like,
They also talk about how she might be near death because she's still alive. Rick actually points out that she might have died and not stuck around, implying that she's zombified and hauled out. But there's like as much blood as she's lost and as big as this trail is that, you're looking to find a very weakened Carol, perhaps.
yeah, but it's also good that she is still willing to kill, right? She hasn't come around completely to Morgan's side, because imagine Morgan in that situation where he gets accosted by 5 guys on the road.
Yeah.
They're headed back to Alexandria and want to use him as a bargaining chip to get in the door.
I don't know what he does.
He doesn't kill, so he gets taken hostage. I mean, that's the only outcome of that, unless he staffs all these people to death,
Maybe
or to unconsciousness.
Like I said, because like that's the problem with his theory is if he is then used as a bargaining chip to let them in the walls and then they kill everyone in Alexandria, then how much precious life did you save, asshole?
Right.
Anyway,
So it's a good thing that Carol is still willing to kill. Otherwise, she would have put everybody at risk.
what do you think Morgan? Because the other thing I didn't agree with is he's like, I saved the wolf. Denise tried to save the wolf saved Denise, and then Denise saved Carl. And if I hadn't done all that, Carl would have died. I'm like, whoa.
Life's a circle.
Your chain of logic is faulty, because it could be that Denise would have been safe and sound cowering in her house during this whole assault.
Yep, he's got a very...
I mean, if fucking Patricia, the pantry counter, survived, I believe that Denise could have survived. The only reason she is out running around the muck in the middle of the walkers needing to be saved by the wolf is the fact that you brought her there in the first place, asshole. So you can't take credit for that.
Sure, no, that's absolutely valid. And I mean, at this point, they just need to start... Look, you can license a Johnny Cash song. I know you can license an Elton John song. Just do it. Lion King it up. The circle of life. I mean, that's what he's talking about here. It's weird because, like... I take his point, though, right? You don't really know what effect your actions will have.
No.
And until they have those consequences, until they're realized, how do you judge whether it was a good thing or a bad thing?
I just didn't like how he laid out the sequence of events as if it was an equation and is like QED, Rick. When I'm like, yeah.
He's giving one example of how something he did couldn't have been predicted.
Yeah.
That's his bigger point, is not that, like, this chain led exactly to where I thought it would,
right?
But more like, I had no idea where this was going to go, and it worked out.
Yeah, but it seems like that's an argument to never take action ever,
right?
Because then you might be responsible for something bad happening.
To do whatever the fuck you want.
Sure.
Right? Because anything is justifiable if you just throw your hands up and say, well, you don't know what's going to happen.
Which is almost a wolfish philosophy, and I don't understand why he can't see that. He's just on the a different side of the coin from the wolves.
Yeah, he's just made a different judgment about it.
This protein bar, it's just a gag at this point, right?
Oh yeah,
I guess it's something for the audience to like, point and mug about. So he volunteers to go off after Carol and says, and Rick asks with some concern, "Are you coming back?" Because I thought like, okay, well maybe he finds Carol and they just fuck off together. He says, "Yeah, I'm gonna come back, but if I don't come back, don't come looking for me."
Which is exactly what Carol said.
Yes.
Don't come looking for me.
Which means I think Abraham and Sasha and Maggie come looking for him next episode.
Right. Because the rest of the town has to leave.
That would only be logical.
Carl and Judith can protect the town.
Sure.
Gabriel, is he going to protect the town?
Well, he shoulders a rifle well.
Yeah.
We'll see what he can do.
Sure.
I wouldn't call him one of their best fighters, though.
No, God, no.
Rick arrives back and finds out everybody's still gone, including Michonne, which has him really, trying to swallow his Adam's apple there. Abraham talks about, the fear of letting someone close and losing someone and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but then he asserts that allowing his heart to love again has rekindled his desire to tear the world a new asshole, which that's kind of Carol's point. You're afraid to lose, and I think that's also what Rosita said. You find someone that's important to you or some reason to die for, and then that makes you want to live that much more. Like that's
right.
The same damn point that they've made a couple times this season already.
Sure.
So Maggie calls in Enid for one more favor. I need you to take my shift. I need you to cut my hair. And she explains it because she has to keep going, and I don't want anything getting in my way.
What do you think of Maggie's haircut?
She's. I can't imagine like you could shave her head and she'd still look attractive.
Yeah, it's
like
tough to make.
Newsflash: attractive people are attractive, and she could. I can't imagine what she could do and not look attractive.
Yeah.
So that doesn't.
Carve a big W in her forehead, maybe. I don't know.
She might start a trend in Alex. It was like, look at Maggie rocking that W. I'm gonna carve one in my head.
So first Eugene, now Maggie.
Yeah,
we've got the makeover police in town. Who gets it next, and what do they look like?
Well, Eugene's a faux makeover. He just tied his mullet to a ponytail.
He's in the Fuck, I've lost all ability to speak. He's in the process of a
Maybe
makeover.
I've gained it. Maybe we've had a transition of power here.
He's in the process of a makeover. His is just less immediate.
Okay.
But someone else has got to get it, the makeover. I think Daryl's in desperate need of a makeover.
Well, my take is the haircut is so god-awful that Enid gave her that it triggers a miscarriage. And, her baby doesn't want to live in her body with this crappy of a haircut. And it wants out. You're all on the zombie baby.
Oh, yeah.
Which
chew your way out, baby. Chew and claw your way out.
What is this baby like the size of her thumb?
I know. With what teeth? With what fingernails?
With what? I might not even have limbs at this point.
I know.
It's still probably got a tail.
I know it's impossible, but I'm still my fingers crossed for a zombie baby.
I'm sure it wouldn't. It probably would be a different medical complication to have some dead thing inside you squirming around, but it's not going to like chest burst her out. It's just not.
Of course not. But
although
I want it to.
Fuck, this show might do it. Who knows?
Yeah.
But that's a crisis. That is a definite crisis if you want to keep a baby and you've got no doctor at all. Quick, get her an apple. Maybe that'll cure what ails her.
Yep.
Daryl sneaks up on Dwight's camp, but somehow Daryl, the master tracker in full backwoods ninja mode, is fucking ambushed by goddamn froggy-style gun-holding Dwight. Mm-hmm. And then to add insult to injury, Dwight shoots him in presumably the shoulder.
Yeah, we don't see his head explode, and it's on screen the entire time, so that's good news, but
I'm surprised.
He definitely gets shot.
Alan Sepinwall, did you read his review? He's rage quit the show. He says he's going to watch the finale, and then that's the last Walking Dead he plans on covering.
Nah. He'll be back.
I don't know. I feel like
back.
He's been looking for an excuse for a while now, and I'm surprised he's kept going.
I don't buy it. He works for HitFix, and HitFix is too big of an outlet, and this is too big of a show for him to rage quit. And they're just going to suck him back in with the finale. You know they are. Although I hear some things that don't give me a lot of confidence, but
Oh, really?
that's the plan, right? Suck the audience back in with the finale.
Yeah. No, I just...
And it always happens.
Do you because his opinion also I thought was interesting that with him shooting and the blood splashing the camera, if you didn't hear Dwight say post fade to black, you'll be all right, I would assume that Daryl just got shot in the head. And he said that he thinks that they loop that in post to avoid another fucking dumpster fiasco.
Could totally be, yeah.
Because I would have, if Daryl wouldn't have been dead, I don't know why they do this. I don't know why they do this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. If you rewind that scene a bunch and analyze it, you can tell he's not shot in the head.
Yeah, sure, no. I saw the same GIFs on Reddit you did.
Oh, I didn't look on Reddit. I just rewound it a bunch.
Okay.
Did my own analysis. But yeah, it's obvious, but you have to like really want to go back and find out.
Uh-huh.
But otherwise, yeah, I assumed... So with the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, did Dwight get shot from a different angle? Did Abraham follow them after all? Or... like, what's happening here? But you can see the muzzle flash from Dwight's gun.
Yeah.
You can see Daryl's head doesn't get shot. Blood splash. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Why
to
did
see
he
how
shoot him
badly
in the
hurt he
shoulder?
is. I don't know. I mean, he obviously doesn't want to kill him. That's the only reason you shoot someone in the shoulder there.
But he also respects Daryl's badassery enough to know that he doesn't want a full capacity Daryl that he's holding hostage.
Probably.
Interesting. I don't know. I just feel like it's also interesting that The Walking Dead wants us to believe that a shoulder wound is non-fatal when you're essentially dealing with, at this point, less than Civil War medical knowledge. Like, people used to die all the fucking time of gunshot wounds. Mm-hmm. The only reason they don't now is antibiotics.
And at the very least, that shoulder's not going to heal right.
I wouldn't think so.
I can't imagine you can.
No, again, this is a work of fiction, so maybe, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if next season, assuming he survives, that he's not at full capacity and never mention this again.
Right.
But having said that, like, the realist in me says this, people are like, oh, well, it's just a shoulder wound. And I'm like, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad in this world.
I wouldn't want to get shot in the shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the episode. Literally fade to black and a splash of blood.
Yeah.
Hey, this is the part of the podcast where we try to sell you on the necessity of the club at the Club Bald Move at club.baldmove.com. It's going to be kind of easy to sell it this week because I think one of the coolest things we've done in recent memory is the playthrough of the Telltale Walking Dead game, the Michonne episode. We got episode 2 that's going to be dropping next week. We're going to be playing it. Mm-hmm. The first episode was hilarious. Like, we literally cried laughing from playing it.
That's right.
And I got a lot of positive...
Storm and Norma.
A lot of positive... a lot of positive feedback on it. And the great thing is, it's, if you go month to month, it's $2 a month. It's $12 for the year. If you wanted to be real ninja about it, you could sign up for the month, $2. You get 2 episodes of Bad Guy Michonne, is what we call our Walking Dead playthroughs. Mm-hmm. Check that out. We got On the Rocks coming next week, which is kind of like our Lunch with Jim and Aaron, which is where we just hang out with the audience and let them ask.
Next week? I think that's tomorrow, isn't it?
Is it tomorrow? Oh, yes, it's tomorrow. I'm
yeah.
sorry. It's actually coming tomorrow. And where it's like 9 p.m. Eastern, we're going to take the mics, we're going to take to the cameras, we're going to answer audience questions and talk about whatever and get drunk on the air.
One of the other favorite things that we do that people tell us is
they like that.
Great.
So if you want more content, you're going to be staring down the end of the Walking Dead coverage coming up. If you want to keep the good times rolling, sign up for the club. You get the Michonnes, you get the rocks and the lunches. You ad-free feeds, all of our other exclusive club-only content, which there's a ton of. I mean, we got over a year of lunches at this point. All that Christmas stuff we did was cool.
Yeah.
And also it helps keep things afloat here at Bald Move. So if you enjoy our coverage and you want to see us keep doing it and keep expanding, really could use your patronage at the club. club.baldmove.com. Thanks in advance.
Are we ready for feedback?
We are. If you want to send us feedback, watchingdead@baldmove.com or on forums.baldmove.com. I assume you've got a pile.
Yeah, we have a shitload of feedback. So much that I spent an hour and a half leading up to this podcast thinking, oh, I gave myself like 15, 20 more minutes than usual. That should be enough. No. I was editing feedback literally until I pressed the record button here.
All right. Let's get to it.
So
Can't wait.
We have a shitload. Joaquin, we start off with... there are a couple of long emails up front, but talking about interesting things. So Joaquin says, as I'm sure both of you did, I quickly began to roll my eyes with the cocktail of incredulity and bored ire as soon as the morgalizer began to lecture Rick about all life being precious for the nth time. However, by the end of the episode, I began to see some merit in the writers having him deliver the line, "It's a circle," after having brought up the "I save Wolf, Wolf saves Denise, blah, blah, blah" situation. Not because it retrospectively vindicated his decision to spare the wolf, but because the line itself tied in very nicely to the overall theme of the episode, although not without some irony that Morgan failed to see. Firstly, there's the circular nature of Dwight captures Daryl. Daryl wakes up with a gun in his face. Daryl escapes. Daryl, yada, yada, Dwight, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. All this Dwight and Daryl stuff. However, in this instance, the circle that Morgan was supposedly espousing as some type of cosmic karma actually ends up manifesting itself in exactly the opposite way that he described, not as a positive karmic force rewarding good deeds, but as some perverse parody of karma, where good deeds, in fact, are punished and end up coming back to bite you in the ass. So there is that, right? There's those two opposing arcs of Daryl and Dwight versus Morgan and Carol,
right.
Morgan and Denise.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting point to bring up because I think that makes his point. I don't think his point is just you do good things happen. Mm-hmm. I think that's less nuanced than the point he's trying to make, which is we really don't know the consequences of our actions. So how can we say that killing is the right thing? Why not just try to do the good thing when you can?
Yeah, I mean...
the thing that's immediately good, right? Which is to preserve life. And I get his point.
I do. I feel like, though, it's a short hop from there to why do anything.
Right.
Or, as you said, why not do anything you want to do? And that's what I don't like. Like, it seems like it robs everyone of their own agency.
Sure.
Except for the simplistic, you just can't kill anybody.
Yeah. And Joaquin goes on, secondly, we have Carol's arc potentially coming full circle, with her starting to resemble her frightened Season 1 self more and more, as well as effectively exiling herself, though this time being self-imposed as opposed to the first time it happened. The fact that for over half a season both these character arcs have been steadily taking turns toward the ultimate climax in this last episode means that Morgan's "It's a Circle," if not the rest of his pseudo-philosophical bullshit, was well placed in the overall context of both the season and the episode. Agreed. I think... you go back, and they belabor the point quite a bit with Morgan, but I think once you can get to the end of it and you can kind of look back on it and maybe forget how much they harped on it, mm-hmm. that the point itself is interesting and valid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but that's...
I know, it's the difference between making a good episode and trying to get your point across. Like,
sure.
I don't know, just maybe be a little more subtle, writers.
Yeah, and trust your audience, because the audience that you're trying to beat over the head is just never going to get it, and they're not watching the show for that. And
it's not that they can't get it; it's just they don't care.
Yeah,
right? Like that.
So, like the Bill Simmons of the world are not watching The Walking Dead for intricate, and he's not going to be listening for that kind of shit. Whereas the ones that are watching it for nice character moments don't need to be hit over the head a million times.
Right, they're primed to read into these things.
Yeah.
So. Okay, moving on to a couple of emails about Carol. We've talked a lot about her nature and things like that. Rachel writes in, and she argues that Carol's natural response to difficult things is to remove herself from the situation. And so she lays out the case. She says, I know people want to blame Morgan for Carol leaving Alexandria, and while he may have been a catalyst in her decision, her flight is a well-established pattern of behavior. She's going to run down several points. Number 1, when Rick banished her from the prison, she agreed with his decision. 2, after killing Lizzie, which I think broke something in Carol, she confessed to Tyrese about Karen and David, gave him her gun, and told him to do what he had to do. Tyrese forgave her, but Carol was in a place where she would have welcomed death. Number 3, after helping our survivors escape Terminus, she again was going to leave until Rick asked her to stay. 4, once they found shelter at Gabriel's church, she tried to leave again, but Daryl stopped her. 5, the entire time they've been in Alexandria, Carol has been breaking down quietly in the background. Disguising herself as a meek woman was viewed as a comedic relief by the fandom, but a large part of it was Carol rejecting the person she had become and retreating to that Season 1 version of Carol that is still very much Carol and no less valuable to the community, as Tobin pointed out. Sam tried to connect with her, and she was cruel to him because she did not want another child becoming attached to her after Lizzie and Mika. More importantly, Sam was a child and an abuser, so he probably reminded her of Sophia. Sam's death likely affected Carol's latest decision. Yeah, I think for sure. Number 6, we saw her break down and cry after the wolves attack. I think so. Every time she has had to kill, it gets harder and harder. The incident with Morgan and the wolf, who ended up trying to save Denise, was a turning point. And finally, number 7, Tobin talking to her about motherhood compelled her to argue with Maggie, which distracted them, and Carol probably blames herself for getting caught and being put in another situation where she had to kill, both in self-defense and preemptively to protect herself from herself and the group. So she says, Carol doesn't want to kill anymore, but unlike Morgan, she cannot be a conscientious objector. As long as she is part of a community, she will feel compelled to rise to the occasion, but it gets more difficult each time to the point where she is endangering the people she loves, in addition to the psychic toll it is taking on her. So she did what she always has done. She removed herself from the situation.
I agree with that in broad strokes. I do disagree with some, like the point she's making about her desperate housewife routine. I didn't find that as an avoidance behavior. That was a legitimate tactic that her and Rick were kind of like we don't
Certainly
trust these
first,
people.
yeah.
Yeah, so it might be that she played the role so well that it got kind of crossed up in there. But
yeah,
I don't. I mean,
and with Ed, her first instinct wasn't to run, right? Like she probably could have. I don't know. She's such a different person. Like mentally, her toughness just she wasn't that person back then. But
I still don't like
her instinct was to just kind of tough it out, right?
It's one of those weird. It's like I agree with the emailer that that's what the show is trying to sell us on, but I don't know that those points all necessarily connect. And it's either needed more time or
yeah, I feel like they just needed to go less far in that direction, and I would have been on board, but I don't know.
They needed another episode or two before I believe that she would just run again.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So
well, apparently some people are on board with it.
Yeah, that's fine.
So.
I mean, because I do think that's exactly what the show is trying to do. Whether it's successful or not is probably a lot. It's probably a lot about, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to say about that.
Okay, well, Kimberly might chime in on this from New York. She talks about Carol's personality change, says, I too can see how it looks like a rapid change, but I think it is PTSD. Never having had PTSD, I can't speak to how it comes on. But the whole group had been on high alert for so long, really just barely surviving, and then they come to Alexandria and get to slow down. They're still surviving, but it's more than that. Carol does her homemaking thing, but that was a real part of her old life, and she did seem to enjoy it. It must be difficult to have these pieces come back when you are a different person. I could definitely see a big personality conflict arise. And as for her choosing not to kill, I can see that. I can see how she had done it to survive, but she doesn't have to anymore, and it's actually a choice now that they are in Alexandria. Yeah, I mean, so that is a good point. Carol has not had an opportunity to slow down, and I think Alexandria at first was not really that opportunity because she had to get in and she had to see what was up here. Is this another governor situation? What is going to need to be done here? And then once she realizes, okay, this is not a place that I really have to fear, maybe some of the stuff she's done has started to weigh on her.
Well, and that I also think that I find this a more believable arc for her, that she is a traumatized individual that did what she had to do to survive. She gets in a situation where she can relax, but she chooses not to. By the time she gets around to relaxing and dealing with the actual post-traumatic stress, then the stressors come back again, and she realizes kind of what the toll it's taken on her. So, like, there was a large stretch at Alexandria where things were just going peachy king, and in fact, her and Rick were fucking up stuff more than they were helping, and she still was all coiled tight. And then by the time she let it down, then you had the wolf attack, and then the zombie attack, and then the savior attack, and
she's confused.
Yeah, she's
emotionally confused.
She's coming and going on, and she's messed up in the head.
I feel like they're going that way with Maggie a little bit too, especially with like Enid saying, "Look, take some time to rest," and she does this episode, and she has a moment to, not worry about the tomatoes not growing and shit like that. Yeah. Fighting for her life or the governor shit that she went through. Like maybe that's part of what of the stress that's taking its toll and causing this problem with the baby. Or who knows? Christian writes in and says, in your last podcast, you discussed the necessity of violence in a post-apocalyptic world and whether Carol is weak or not for not wanting to kill anymore to protect the people she loves. Although killing people is a necessary thing to do. This reminded me of the natural state created by Thomas Hobbes in his philosophic work, Leviathan.
Holy shit.
I know.
Going Calvin and Hobbes on us?
Yes. This is going to get deep. In which he tries to deduct the legitimation of a sovereign state from a natural state. Now stick with me here because this gets pretty intense for our typical email. This natural state describes Carol's conflict by means of rational acts of violence leading to an irrational scenario. In Hobbes' hypothetical natural state, there are no civic laws and no moral laws in place. The only right that matters is everybody's natural right of self-preservation. Similar to a post-apocalyptic zombie-infested world like in The Walking Dead, in order to achieve self-preservation, you need goods, and goods are scarce, so there is competition. And because there are no rules and laws, the rational thing to do is to mistrust other people. It is rational to attack those people before they attack you. It is rational to arm yourself. If you don't arm yourself and or strike preventatively, other people who are less uncomfortable with violence and killing will kill you. The result is a war of everybody versus everybody. But a war of everybody versus everybody is a highly undesirable, irrational situation because you live in constant fear. So the rational act of arming yourself and killing other people preventatively leads to an irrational situation. I think this contrast reflects the inner conflict of Carol. She knows that killing other people is a rational thing to do, but she can't tolerate the irrationality of the situation anymore. Later on, Hobbes argues that the same rationality dictates that you create a state and that you put a sovereign in charge which enforces the laws. You give up rights, but you gain peace.
You give them a monopoly on force.
Yeah. Perhaps Morgan building a prison is foreshadowing a world in which you try to establish some laws and some form of political system so you have the chance to start to resolve the irrational war of everybody versus everybody. I thought
AKA,
that was,
which I think is the actual legitimately interesting part of an apocalyptic situation.
Absolutely, and you've talked about that from almost the beginning of this thing. Like,
Yeah.
when are we going to get to that?
Yeah.
Do you think we're coming around to that finally?
Has to be.
Okay.
Has to be. The fact that you have other types of civilizations that I mean, that's, this is model UN stuff, but every nation out there does things differently. You have some that are kind of broadly in agreement, but you have to get along with everybody. Just because someone wants to jail their political dissidents or someone wants to execute their criminals, which, you can't go to war over every little moral and philosophical disagreement. So I think that you have to essentially, I guess the essential thing to be a good state is you have to respect the sovereignty of others.
Sure.
And
there has to be some kind of institutional sovereignty, right? There can't just be all for themselves.
Yeah. And so I think that's going to be interesting to see, what are the limits of that going to be? Because there's intolerable acts as well. Like if someone doesn't respect other sovereign rights, then you have to eventually put a stop to them, or they'll take over the world. Or how much of the moral and ethical problems of, like, if you have one regime that is just completely destroying their people, not respecting anyone's individual liberties, like how much of that can the world tolerate before they're like, okay, fine, we need to put an end to this.
Yeah, and that butts right up against Carol's storyline with killing the people in the prison. Like, that's why she got banished in the first place, because she took unilateral
and she's
action.
Interesting because what she's saying is that I believe that the state should have the power to kill or preserve life or whatnot, but I'm an individual that cannot allow that to happen. Right. Like if someone comes, I don't give a shit what this policy or what our diplomacy is, I'm going to take this unilateral action. Therefore, I cannot live within this civil society. Right. Therefore, I need to put myself outside it. That's all interesting stuff.
Sure.
Like I said, I feel like they cut a few corners to get there, but the crux of it, I think, is interesting.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is out of necessity, just given the plot, or if this is something they consciously did, but it seems like now that we're in Alexandria and the threat is has largely been neutralized, or so they think at the beginning of this episode, certainly. And Alexandria can become some kind of civilization. That's never been a more pertinent issue than it is now. And so I think it is the right time to have these discussions with Morgan and Carol and think about those ideas. Eve, North Carolina, says, I had mixed feelings about this episode, too. A show this popular should not have so many plot holes. She's actually talking about last episode, because she mentions Daryl being unable to drive a stick shift. My feedback on the soldier that Daryl finds on the motorcycle.
Turns out Daryl had a lot further to fall. He also can't hear someone approaching behind him in a woods.
He's also not good at the things we know he's good at.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
she wanted to comment about the little statue that Daryl finds in the motorcycle. We got a shitload of feedback on this. Tons of people.
We've shit the bed.
I'll just talk about it in generalities. Thanks for writing in, Eve, though. So apparently, okay, so we knew this was Daryl's bike. We knew that this is the actual bike he built in Alexandria with Aaron, and that this is the bike that Dwight stole from him. What I forgot was that he got this statue and put it in the bike.
Yes.
By like trading back the insulin to him, right? To save that girl's life.
Which we did.
So this is the good deed that he did that is now coming back to haunt him.
The problem with this and why I didn't remember it is because it made no sense at the time. We even remarked about when Daryl's like, I got to trade, I just don't give anything for free. Well, here's a carved wooden soldier. Okay, I'll take it. Like,
yeah, it was like some kind of principle.
If that was a genuine moment, it would have been memorable and you would have remembered it when it came back around. So
right. But that's where the statue comes from, and so many people wrote in about it.
Now, what I really want to know is why, so no one has gone through that storage container ever since Dwight turned the bike over to the Saviors?
Yeah, that little pouch on the bike?
Yeah, I feel like that's something that, people just be... I feel like once Primo got a hold of that, he'd been like, what is this shit? I'm going to pack this full of weed, and...
right.
And that's why the chain of custody wasn't very clear either.
It wasn't because I honestly didn't remember that he stuffed it into the bike's pouch. I thought he might have pocketed it, and how the hell did it get in the bike? And yeah, but I guess that's it.
As soon as someone mentioned it, I remembered that, but I had no idea who ended up with the toy or what. So
yeah, all right,
whatever.
Well, lots of people also wrote in about this thing.
Okay,
we talked last episode to I think it was Zach, the hunter, who told us about the density of bones.
Sure.
And how hard it is to plunge a knife in to a human skull or to really any kind of bone.
Okay.
Eric E. and about 1,000 other people wrote in. Eric E. was the first one to say that they think knives are going into eyes and ears and soft parts, buttholes. I mean, knives are going in everywhere to kill these humans and walkers. So don't think about it too much. I feel like I've definitely seen some non-eye ear related kills, but
there's a pretty
thin
part of your skull right there. But I've also seen a lot of just dead center forehead shots
on humans or walkers. Because
that's what Rick did to this guy. Like when he was starting to torture and intimidate him, and he just puts it right between the guy's eyes. So
you're right, which is a pretty dense part.
I would think that your forehead right there is one of the thickest part of your skulls.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. A lot of people writing in. I'm sure we'll get more emails.
We got to get a pig head.
We will have to prove it conclusively once and for all.
Yep.
We'll try and go in through the pig's eye, going through the pig's nose.
You can't go through the snout.
Get a long enough knife, maybe you can. I mean, that's the other problem we've had is all these chin shots, right? With short blades.
Well, see, I feel like that's a great way if you're trying to target someone's brainstem.
But you need a long...
Yeah, slide up and right up through there. That'd be...
You need a longer knife, though, I think.
Yeah.
We've seen some short knives.
Sure.
Being passed off as kill shots.
Yeah.
All right.
Right here, this whole area is no brain.
Right.
No brain. All you can lose the whole thing. No brain.
No skull, but conveniently no brain either.
Yeah. So...
Anyway, Landry says, I've had a question burning in my mind since I watched the episode twice as far. It seemed that Dwight and the group of saviors knew about Alexandrian slaughter of Negan's folk at the compound, and about Carol and Maggie's barbecue on the kill floor. The way that Dwight mentioned this is not how we negotiate seemed to me that he knew about those previous encounters with the saviors.
No, that's he's talking about the same shit that the guys got RPG'd at the side of the road is.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, they like to come up and kill one of them for massive shock, and then try to kill him with kindness is what the saviors do.
Okay. Well then,
shock and awe, and then the olive branch.
Okay, I think it's also clear that whoever these people are, the saviors have lookouts. They have watchers. They have scouts. They're doing things similar to what Aaron was doing.
And
last season.
They have a protocol. They have a first contact protocol.
Right. So it wouldn't be a stretch to me to say they've been lurking in the background the whole time, seeing everything that our group has been doing. They clearly know about Alexandria. They know a lot more than we think they know.
Okay, but I don't know, because if they've just been sitting back and watching their ass get kicked in this whole time, that's stupid. Like,
well, I mean, it's not stupid to have someone hidden, and if shit goes wrong, report back, right?
Okay.
Like, because one person isn't going to make the difference. If a compound of 15 dudes get taken out.
I think it's a little bit like, so I feel like that you've got, you've had these skirmishes, and that it seems like the way things are going is that the Saviors, I'm going to assume, are a much larger organization, and Rick has interpreted the skirmishes as decisive victories, whereas the Saviors are seeing that as, oh, this is a problem. We need to start probing more in this area and build up more information. But like, if they've literally been sitting and watching Alexandria for 2 months, it makes no sense that they allowed themselves to be taken out at their outpost. It makes no sense that.
Right.
Plus, here's the proof that this is not a correct theory. We know the Saviors were looking for the people that blew up the bikers that tried to jack Daryl, Abraham, and Sasha. And when Rick hit the outpost, one of the things Paula said to Maggie is like, "Oh, so you're the people that did that." So I think they were ignorant of Alexandria until very recently, but they were smart, and they've been looking for them. And that's why they've run into so many scouting and raiding parties, which is why I've thought it's been really stupid how our group has just been having these loud, raised voice conversations all over the damn place.
Yeah, no, it seems to me like they might have been alerted when Maggie and Carol were taken hostage.
Yeah,
and they got on the radio and they called in reserves, or they called them backup. I'm sure the backup was either coming from another encampment.
Well, and we've seen time and time again how there's signs that say Alexandria, this many miles. Like, there's these, like, those should have all been pulled down in the
but
months.
It's a safe zone. They're welcoming people.
I don't think that's true.
Not really.
Yeah, like that's what Aaron and Daryl are for, to find people, observe them from a distance, and recruit them. Yeah. You don't want signs saying everybody show up here.
Unless you're cannibals.
Yeah, it'd be hilarious if the Terminus folks tried that in the D.C. area, because the Saviors would have found them and kicked their asses all in.
Right.
Or maybe they trade them for meat. I don't know.
All right, let's move on. Dr. DeVito says, is Carol's gun hidden in her sleeve that she kills the guys in the truck with supposed to be Walking Dead's version of salvation comes from within, like the Bible with the hammer cut out at the end of Shawshank Redemption? Did you see any kind of thematic approach they were taking with Carol and this hidden sleeve gun?
No,
I didn't. I was too distracted by
being resourceful.
Yeah,
and also a very different approach than Morgan. Like, Morgan won't kill, period.
Right.
Carol just doesn't want to kill, but she made damn sure she was able to.
Right. She will kill.
Yeah,
for sure. But I don't know. Thought that was an interesting idea. So. Okay, another one where 1,000 people wrote in, but they're basically saying the same thing you said, which is basically the logic of Morgan doesn't work. It's stupid for him to say this all saved Denise, which saved Carl, when in fact he put Denise in danger in the first place. So I'm going to skip that. Thanks to everybody who wrote in about that. Luke says, just writing in to comment about the scene with Michonne and Rick in bed with the apple. Did you pick up on the biblical reference the writers were making?
Oh, shit.
I know.
Oh, shit.
Michonne takes a bite of the apple, gives it to Rick to eat, and he bites it. She then says, Jesus really came through for us this time. Now, obviously, in-universes are talking about Jesus the character. However, I can't help but think the writers intentionally staged the scene this way to make a funny little Easter egg about Jesus and the resurrection forgiving original sin, especially since the episode aired on Easter Sunday. How cognizant do you think they were of when this episode was going to air?
I don't know.
Is that something you can know when you're writing?
I imagine, because of the especially with it butting up against the Fear the Walking Dead. I don't know. I will say that you got to be careful, because there's people that write in and get all pissed off as saying "goddamn." So you try to make a Jesus allegory on Easter and The Walking Dead with the original. That's flying pretty close to the sun there.
Okay, and I definitely didn't read that into it, but I don't know that it's not there.
Sure.
Isaac says, even though I knew it was going to be horrible walking into it, I had to see Batman vs. Superman. And stick with me because this is going.
Okay, I was gonna say, did you fuck up and put some feedback to our movie podcast?
He says it was way worse than I expected. Same thing with tonight's episode of The Walking Dead. Both entities are shitty pieces of work that, if called creative, would be laughable at best, but their popularity justifies their existence. I think the people, me included, watching the show are to blame. If we stopped watching it, they wouldn't make it, or at least they'd make it better, so we would, but we don't. I've almost given up many times, but this is it. I'm officially giving up.
Oh, man.
Done with The Walking Dead.
Oh, no.
I got to read one of these a season at least.
Yeah, sure.
Because that opinion is out there. Carol going sad all of a sudden. Daryl being an idiot. Morgan killing a walker simply by hitting him in the head with a stick. Not a sharp-ended stick, but snapping his neck sideways, huh? And also, Dwight got his dick all chewed up the day before, and he's already back in action. I've gotten a swift gust of air to my nether region and was put out of commission for hours. So a bite, not buying it. We didn't really talk about that. He did get a vicious dick bite.
He did get a vicious dick
bite.
Bite.
Just a day before? I don't know. We don't really know how long it's been, or do we?
Plus, he's wearing jeans. That's my thing. If
we
these
do
people
know how long it's been.
wore denim, they
right.
Yeah.
It's. I think you could take a bite to the dick and still keep trucking.
Well, how are we going to test that theory? You can't exactly
bite a pig's dick and see how it goes.
Oh,
we need a live one for that though. That's
through
not gonna
denim.
Work.
Yeah, that's a lot of people said that he sustained the injury he sustained, but I don't. That's got to be like like you would unless he bit the dick off,
right?
And got infected. I think you'd recover by the next day.
Yeah, you'd be sore, but you could power through it.
Sure.
Unless. I don't know that he got a hold of any of the truly sensitive, like the ultra sensitive parts. Like you bite into a testicle,
yeah,
and pop that thing open, you're not going to have a good day.
If he crushed a testicle, fine.
Yeah,
but they said it was a dick bite, so and it's through a layer of denim.
Right. I think he's good.
Yeah.
Jack says, thought I'd pitch in on something that probably won't get read, but is becoming increasingly noticeable despite the ups and downs of the season. Something dawned on me about 10 minutes in. Where's Carl been this season? When he appeared with that bat gun, I actually forgot that he existed, so seeing him on screen was a bit bizarre. Did a bit of research, and it turns out that for 12 episodes this season, he's either been absent or had minimal involvement in the episode. I went back further, and it seems like season 5 was roughly the same. It's a shockingly low turnout for one of the original characters.
Is his schoolwork keeping him busy?
Like Chandler Riggs?
I gotta say that there's not been a lot. Like, to be fair, there hasn't been exactly a history of Carl heavy episodes. Like, you might see him in the background or whatever, but like I don't know that I've gotten less Carl. I mean, arguably he's had more roles, meaty roles with his interactions with God. I've already forgotten the kid's name.
Enid or Ron?
Ron.
Yeah.
With Ron and Enid, and kind of his maturity and getting his eye blown out, and I don't know. I feel like he's had a just fine amount of. Daryl's the one that I think has been AWOL up until his last few episodes.
Yeah, I agree. They haven't done much with him. So okay, yeah, I mostly agree with you. I don't know that I've really wanted to see a whole lot more from Carl right now.
I'm getting enough Carl in my life.
Yeah,
adequate amount of Carl.
Okay, Judd B asks about a wrap-up cast. Are you guys still doing one?
Yes.
I think season's been good enough to where we can talk about it in relation to the other seasons, the first half.
And as a reminder, because I'm assuming we'll have dropped this ad in somewhere else in the podcast, but we are also doing a playthrough of the next episode of Michonne's Telltale video game. We did the first one. These are for club members only, so if you want to pony up $1 or $2 to get access and then cancel your membership, I ain't gonna be mad at you.
Bad guy Michonne.
Bad guy Michonne. So we'll be doing next week. Finale sometime next week. We'll release the episode of Michonne, and the week after that we'll do a wrap up cast.
Okay. That's it. That's it for the feedback.
Okay.
I cut a lot of people, so I'm sorry. We just had an avalanche.
Lots of dry pie going through
Holy
people's
shit.
system.
Yeah.
We do have a spoiler section, yeah?
We do.
Okay.
So I guess we'll get to that.
All right. If you'd like to send us feedback, watchingdead@baldmove.com or forums.baldmove.com. And now for the spoiler section.
And we're back with the spoiler section. I've got I don't know, four emails or so, 5 emails.
Well, what I want to talk about is the obvious foreshadowing of Carl's gun.
Right.
Like, that's probably Negan's gun, yeah. Like,
oh, his actual gun?
Or yeah, because I'm thinking,
I thought maybe it could just be
who
an
would be
acolyte.
so up Negan's ass that they are putting Polaroids of Negan's victims of getting beat to death with Lucille up in their bunk, and also would carve a symbol of his baseball bat into their gun.
So are you saying Negan's dead? I mean, he can't be dead.
No, I don't think
we
he's
haven't
dead.
Even
I
seen
think
Negan
that's
yet.
Negan's bedroom. That, you know, well, but someone was sleeping in that bed, and it's also pretty ballsy to sleep in Negan's bed.
And how would they get his actual gun if they hadn't killed him? Or
my expectation was that, you know, he's got some shit in all the outposts and he chooses to stay there or not. I don't understand the bed thing, but I was thinking up until I started really thinking about it right now that we're going to see a scene where Negan relieves Carl of his gun. Oh, you've got you've been keeping Bradley warm for me or something. I don't know, but.
He names his gun Bo Jackson.
Yeah, really shitty, like, prison tattoo quality etching on this gun.
Yeah, it was bad.
Like, I thought it was a name. I thought it was like, is this Enid? Like, is she like Andy in Toy Story writing her name on all the guns? I'm looking at it and I'm trying to figure out what, and then I realized, oh shit, it's a fucking baseball bat with a loose wrap of barbed wire, which isn't what Lucille looks like either. So what the fuck?
Yeah, I was wondering if this is like some symbol that represents the Saviors and Negan as a whole. Like, is this something that they've kind of rallied around? On sort of ideology, you know, similar to any
this
symbol
is the bald eagle
for
the Saviors.
Sure.
The other thing I want to point out is the man trying to steal a horse with the spear is an obvious foreshadowing of the kingdom. Because all of the knights, Ezekiel's knights in the kingdom, wear this kind of body armor, and they're mounted, and they have the spears and whatnot. And I also wonder if the people that ran into Carol are also people from the kingdom who have been deputized by the Saviors to find Rick and his people. And that Rick is inadvertently stepped on his dick by being indiscriminate in who he's killing. Because he's going to...
Could be.
You know, All Out War essentially is an alliance between Alexandria, the kingdom, and the Hilltop.
Yeah.
And I remember there was some tensions with Ezekiel, and I couldn't remember if it's just because, you know, Ezekiel is a kooky guy. And that's the other thing I thought, because I was trying to explain this to my girlfriend, and I remember that, like, Ezekiel has this, like, chivalry system set up, and he has all of his people, he refers to his, like, soldiers as knights, but I also remember that not all of his people think this is a bit eccentric, but they go along with it because they respect Ezekiel, or maybe it's because he's got the tiger. But I remember the kingdom being kind of a fucked up, weird place that I don't know how it's going to read on television.
Okay.
But clearly this guy and Glenn saying the world's bigger, and Morgan saying, oh, you know,
came
this
from the west, the east, whatever, all that shit. Yeah.
They're going to. I feel like they're going to get to the kingdom, whether we have a tiger or there's a live tiger, a CGI tiger. I don't know.
Paper tiger.
Maybe they'll really downplay the whole feudal aspect of the kingdom and just have, like, you know, it makes sense if you send your soldiers in body armor. Like, why wouldn't you?
Right.
Like, why do you let them wear fucking tank tops and short shorts? Like, put them in fucking armor.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's what I got. What do you got?
I have an email from Nick H., who wants to talk about Glenn and Maggie and respective deaths and their movements around town.
Okay.
Says, I'm a listener who used to listen to 3 or 4 Walking Dead podcasts, and I'm just here to suck your dick, so I'm not going to read that part. Anyway, I'm emailing for the first time to call BS.
As long as it's not a bite. As long as it's not a bite.
Well, I added that part. Anyway, I'm emailing for the first time to call BS on the feedback that you got for this past episode about Denise's death serving no purpose. In the comics, Glenn and Maggie decide to move to the hilltop, which sets the story in motion when Negan shows up and bashes Glenn's head in on their way there. Now, in the show universe, Glenn and Maggie have no reason to want to move to the hilltop. However, with Alexandria's only... He's getting there. Okay. However, with Alexandria's only doctor dead and an OBGYN at the hilltop, I think that Denise's death will solidify their decision to move to the hilltop and put the plan in motion for Negan to show up during the finale and fuck shit up.
This must have been before we saw this episode. This feedback came in last week because now you got Maggie with an obvious baby crisis.
Right. It may have come in, yeah, after last episode.
Okay, which I assume is going to motivate them to... That's going to be the impetus for them going to the hilltop?
Seems like it.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. Although I don't even know if Glenn's going to make it back. Like, how the fuck does Glenn get out of this situation and get back to where Maggie and him move to the hilltop?
That, like, even with this show can't get out of his own pacing issue. Now, next week's going to be a 90-minute episode. But even still, it feels like they're a little bit rushed. Like they got too many fucking irons in the fire heading up into this final confrontation.
I just can't imagine a scenario where these people get away from Dwight and his goons. They're outnumbered. They're disarmed. Like,
no, I think that
nobody knows where they are.
Up with them all outside the gate. It's going to be eeny, meeny, miny, mo, beat someone to death, and then everybody else can go free because look at how magnanimous, but whatever.
Magnanimous, yeah.
Look how meslomathiame.
And then, so what happens after that? Like, I don't know the exact timeline here. So, Glenn and Maggie then move to the hilltop, decide they're leaving Alexandria?
Well, that depends whether Glenn's brains are leaking out or not. Like, so I guess so. Is there enough time
to do all that? I don't think you could put him
Glenn
in danger
and Michonne
twice.
is captured. Rosita is captured too because she was right by Daryl when Daryl got his shoulder.
Everybody who went out is captured except for Morgan and Rick on his way back.
Because like it doesn't seem like there's time for either of them to escape or for Dwight to come back and say, you know, I'll let your people go as a show. I'm trying to think of how Glenn gets back into Alexandria and then joins Maggie to go to the hilltop. It just feels like that. I don't know. Like she's gonna have to go to hilltop without him.
Right.
I mean, we're in the spoiler section, so fuck it. I know that that's one of the things that they try to do next episode is to get Maggie to the hilltop to save her baby.
So, but it can't be with Glenn.
It can't be. I can't imagine.
Because the other big spoiler from this episode is that it's going to end on Lucille killing somebody, and we don't know who. Because it goes to first-person POV. So many people wrote in to tell me
whoa.
about this.
You mean we're not going to see who actually dies?
We are not going to see who dies
this year.
It's going to go to first-person POV from an Alexandrian. Somebody gets hit with it. The camera drops over. There's another squishy bat sound, and it fades to black.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
I know. It's the worst. It's the fucking worst. So many people wanted to know what do we think about this as a cliffhanger.
Oh my god!
I just that's not.
Did you not know?
It's not interesting. It's not interesting. It's just like to get people talking about something that doesn't have any weight to it. Like, who is not really the weight? It's what happens afterward.
Yes.
How will they react to
Yes.
it? And we've talked about this time and time again.
The cliffhanger is Negan doing this, and now what does Rick do in response?
Right.
Not who fucking dies. Why do they fucking not understand that?
It's
like
a
they don't know how
fundamental
the
writing
cliffhanger.
thing, yeah.
They don't know how to cliffhanger.
I know.
The cliffhanger of Best of Both Worlds Part 1 wasn't, which of the bridge staff is going to be fucking kidnapped by the Borg? It's fucking Picard's kidnapped by the Borg.
How does this change the equation?
What are they going to do about it? God damn it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so furious. Oh.
It's the worst. I really hope that's wrong, but so many, like,
and
spoiling the dead has it on their site, and I think they're usually right, so...
I got the taste of rancid dick in my mouth because this the last few episodes I've been
through
walking...
the genes.
Through the genes. I've been walking back my criticism of Kirkman, saying, like, you know what? In a fucked up post-spoiler universe and world society, maybe the game he's been playing is not a fuck you to the fans, but a I'm going to do this to protect you from your own worst impulses. And then if this is true...
It just feels like fundamentally bad writing.
And also, like, that's the gut punch of is seeing, like, Glenn in the comics beat to death, and the reaction to that was, like, if it was a first-person perspective and you miss all that, and then you come back and it's the aftermath, like, I get it. Part of this might be, like, how do we show this on AMC? Mm-hmm. But it's just a raw... I mean, I saw a guy get beat his brains out with baseball bats several times in a few episodes ago. Or a few
there was a
seasons ago.
fan-fucking-tastic shot of someone getting their guts eaten out this episode, which I didn't talk about, but was awesome. One of Dwight's guys who's still on the tracks is being eaten eaten dead by a zombie. Tell me you can show a man's guts being eaten out of their body, but you can't show someone getting hit with a baseball bat.
I'm talking about in the opener of Terminus, we saw we saw several guys get beat to death with a baseball bat and their throat slit. We talked about how horrific it was.
Right, we did.
Like,
yeah.
This is, man, I'm really disappointed because that's not how you cliffhanger, man.
No, for sure.
Like, arguing who got the bat is the least interesting part of it. God damn it, people.
I can't even understand it. Like, from a hype perspective, does that do it? Is that what people want to talk about in this fan community? Like, is that...
because the spoiler-friendly comic community, or the people have been talking about this. We're done talking about it.
Right, we've been talking about it all season.
I want to see it executed and executed well, so that next season I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to see how this is resolved.
I know. Yeah, it's crazy.
Man, I'm really bummed out, dude. I wish you'd save this for the very end of the podcast.
Well, we got a couple more emails that I'm not even sure at the moment don't have anything to do with this. Let's see. Dan from Philly says, I've been on Spoil the Dead too long, and I'm embarrassed to say they're never wrong. And the word is that this will be a total cliffhanger as to who Negan kills. If it's done from the POV of the victim, so apparently we won't know until next season. My question to you guys is, if this happens, do you think it's another complete fuck-up, which we've talked about? And do you think the audience is at that critical time in the show when they get played once too often, and just write it off and move on to something else? So I guess that's an interesting question. Do you think that this will actually persuade anybody to quit watching this show?
Well, it's weird because if this half season was as bad as last half season, I think you would have been at a critical juncture and you would have been hemorrhaging audience, and this would be, I want to see if they fuck up they fucked up the Negan introduction, I'm out. Since this half season has been so relatively good up until this last, god damn it, why did I have to say it? I don't see how in the world they could fuck up the last 2 episodes. It's like I'm daring them to, right?
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I'm probably, like, even as bad a fuck up this is, I still think that there's a lot of interesting story for them to tell in the All Out War and post All Out War, and I honestly can't see anything at this point that would make me stop watching until we get to the flash forward.
Okay.
Because
how far in the future is that?
I feel like we'll have next season of All Out War.
Okay.
And then we should, if they go with the comic, flash forward. Now they could do the further adventures of Rick and Carl and fill in that 2-year, however many year gap it was. But I don't. To me, I think the time gap works in their favor because they can just play. Chandler Riggs as if he is a late teenager, and kind of they finally gotten right with his chronology.
Right.
So, and they've got so many. I mean, by that time they'll have 50 more issues past that they probably can burn through. I don't know. I just can't believe that they thought that was the way to do it. I just don't. I don't see how that makes it out of the writer's room. I really don't.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, so much of this show seems constrained by budget. I mean, I cut a couple of emails that were talking, about
that's not a budget constraint. That particular thing, though, right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, how much time do they have writing these episodes? Is it something where they're like, you get this deadline for writing and that's it?
But for the finale?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I mean, it's like, oh, we only got 15 more minutes to write the finale. Well, fuck it, POV it.
And that seems like a thing that comes up on day one, right? Like,
yes.
We know we have this moment. What do we do with it?
And also, Gimple, what the fuck? I get it that you've got, like, I guess, time off. But as a showrunner, aren't you thinking about this show? And you're, like, don't you have a notebook where you're jotting down ideas? And
yeah, probably.
Like, if he's not coming in to first day of class with a fucking outline, what the hell is he doing? I don't know, man. This seems pretty... Oh, wow. Yeah, I can't wait to see Seppenwall. I cannot wait to see him next week.
Maybe that's why he noped out. Has he seen the finale? Do we know?
I don't think he has, but who knows with him? He could have already seen it, and does he
just
write it with? And can you? Is it possible to write a review if you have spoiler knowledge without without even coloring your opinion? I don't think it is.
I don't think so. No.
So, jeez.
All right, let me take your mind off that with one final email. Jono, he wrote in with just a metric shit ton of calculations on whether or not you could stab through a human skull with a knife and different states of composition. I'm not going to go into that because...
Is this a spoiler email?
It's too much. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's something we can only talk about in the spoiler section. So after determining how quickly a body decomposes and saying that this would effectively, in a 2-year jump, kill off all the walkers, Do you think that's a possibility? Is there any chance that The Walking Dead gets to a state where there are no walkers anymore? I don't see that happening. I can't imagine that they're so worried about reality here that decomposition would be so much of a factor that they'd let that threat completely go away. I think there will always be walkers in this show. I just don't think they're the main focus anymore, certainly. The herd, to me, was like a final gasp of the walkers.
Well, so, and, one of the interesting things they do, because I read a couple episodes past the flash forward, and that's where I stopped, like right when they got into, if you're familiar with the Whispers plot line, they're about halfway through the Whispers when I stopped reading. Not because I was not enjoying it, but because I'm so far ahead, and I was seeing how my enjoyment of the series is being adversely, blah, blah, blah. I've talked about this a million times. One of the more interesting things is that they've kind of gone into a post-herd society where they now actively manage herds. Okay. In a way that's kind of, they used a lot in Rick's shitty plan with the quarry. Like, essentially you get on horseback and you have scouts way outside of the cities. And at this point, they're protecting multiple civilizations. You have these scouts, these border skirmishers that are looking for these herds, and when they see them coming, you have this whole system of leading them away and diverting their, like you try. It's kind of like, how we would deal with an asteroid. First, you got to identify them. Second, you got to come up with a plan to divert them, because you can't stop them. You got to nudge them out of the path.
Sure.
And they have this whole system that's kind of interesting in how they do that. So there's still shit tons of walkers in the post time jump. Whether that makes any kind of logical sense, whether they're going to be essentially Army of Darkness style meat skeletons eventually, I don't know.
Yeah. To me, that feels like where it would go. I don't think they're going to eliminate that threat just through natural causes.
No,
I don't see that happening. But maybe they'll prove me wrong.
Although, I mean, I guess like if this was going for like, didn't someone say 20 years? Like, wasn't that like the plan?
I don't know.
Like, if you go 20 years in the future, then like you're still always going to have the deal of you go to bed with somebody and you wake up and they're eating you because they become a zombie. They died from natural causes or whatever.
Right.
You're always, I mean, the threat of instant zombification is always, it's just going to be different. You're not going to be going into buildings and having tons of walkers lurking around.
Mm-hmm.
You also, aren't you the Big Max Brook guy that like you could have a whole bunch of zombies frozen up in Canada that thaw on a seasonal basis, and you get like a fresh wave of walkers coming from the wet, or coming out of the oceans or whatever the fuck.
I don't know about the oceans. It's a pretty harsh environment, but yeah, I from the north, sure.
Yeah.
Where their decomposition is halted for a good chunk of the year.
Yeah, yeah.
Then again, you don't have a lot of people living in those places, so how big
like
can the
all
herds
of Canada
really
is
be?
Like 30 million. Isn't it 30, 40 million?
I'm not totally sure, but it's much less than you think, given the land mass.
It's much less than you think, with like 300 some million people in the United States.
Yeah,
and then you would think that Central and South America would rot faster because it's hotter.
Yep.
So
not much coming up from the South, probably.
I wouldn't think.
I don't know. I just don't think the show's going to go there.
Yeah,
I think they want that constant background threat.
Sure. It's honestly, if you think about it, it's one of the least unbelievable things about the show featuring Walking Dead.
Yeah. So who cares?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all we got for feedback.
All right. Again, one last time, watchingdead@baldmove.com or forums.baldmove.com if you want to discuss this. Get at us.
Yeah. And if not,
just a reminder, we'll be back for the finale. We will have the season review wrap up, and we will have another episode of Bad Guy Michonne.
Yep.
The Telltale playthrough for club members only.
Right. So
coming next week.
Whenever you tune in next, we'll see you then.
Bye-bye.